Right in the middle of the crypto downturn, when pretty much every market was just flat, one sector didn't just survive, it completely exploded. We're talking about on-chain perpetuals. And today, we're going to dig into why this isn't just some new product, it's actually the blueprint for a whole new financial infrastructure. So let's get into it.
Here's what we've got lined up. We're going to start with the absolutely wild numbers behind this growth, and then we'll pull back the curtain on what's really driving it. We'll look at why traders are finally making the switch, peek at the real race happening behind the scenes, and then wrap up with the ultimate kind of mind-blowing vision for this whole technology.
All right, first up, the anomaly. This whole thing blew up at a time when, honestly, it really shouldn't have.
Let's just start with a number that's pretty hard to wrap your head around. $1 trillion. That was the trading volume for on-chain perpetuals in a single recent month. A completely new, absolutely staggering all-time high.
Now here's what makes this so wild. This wasn't happening during some crazy bull run. Spot markets were dead in the water. Even the big centralized futures exchanges were slowing down. But this one corner of the market, it was on fire. So you gotta ask, what on earth is going on here?
So to really get this, we need to know the two players. On one side, you've got the centralized exchanges, the CXs. They hold your funds, and everything happens inside this kind of opaque black box. But on the other side, you've got perpetual DEXs. Here, you, and only you, hold your funds, and every single move is transparent and verifiable right on the blockchain.
And that brings us to the main idea of this whole explainer. This explosive growth isn't just some temporary hype. What we're actually watching is a massive fundamental migration. Traders and capital are literally moving from one type of system to another. This is about building a brand new pillar for finance.
Okay, so if it's such a big shift, how did it all happen so fast? Let's jump into our next section and look at the 1-2 punch that made this happen. The spark, and then the fire.
The first push, that initial spark, came from something we all know in crypto: incentives, right? Platforms like Hyperliquid and Aster rolled out point systems and airdrops to basically get people in the door. It was the classic crypto playbook, and hey, it worked.
But here's the thing about incentives. They can burn out fast. The real, lasting growth, the fire that's still burning, it came from a totally different group: structural participants. We're talking about the pros, the serious players, arbitrageurs and market makers who are in it for the long haul, not just a quick airdrop.
So what did these pros see that the rest of us missed? Well, they found real, consistent ways to make money. They could take advantage of tiny price differences between exchanges, or they could use these new DEXs to hedge their bigger bets on the centralized platforms. This smart money didn't just show up for a party. They moved in, and they brought deep, stable liquidity with them. And that was the real game changer.
This quote really just nails it. The airdrops and points, that was just turning the key in the ignition. The real power, the engine that's driving this whole thing forward, is the incredible liquidity that these professionals brought to the table.
Okay, so we've got the pros on board, but what about everybody else? Why are regular traders finally deciding it's time to pack their bags and move on-chain? That's what we're diving into next.
So, what's really pulling people in? It really boils down to 5 things. First, familiarity. Seriously, if you've used a big SEX, these new DEXs from teams like Apex look and feel almost exactly the same. No steep learning curve. Second, and this is huge, is trust. After watching giants collapse, people want control. Self-custody means your funds are your funds. End of story. Then there's performance. These things are finally fast enough and liquid enough for real trading. Fourth is safety. Knowing your trades are settling on a rock-solid chain like Ethereum is a massive comfort. And it all comes together to form new habits. See, the incentives get you to try it once, but this genuinely good experience is what keeps you coming back.
And that leads us to a really critical point. If the user interface is basically a solved problem, then the real competition has to be happening somewhere else, on a much, much deeper level. This isn't just about pretty buttons anymore.
So if it's not about the fancy front end anymore, where is the real battle actually being fought?
And this just lays it out perfectly. The battle on the surface used to be about who had the slickest UI or the loudest marketing. But the real war, the one that actually matters now, is being fought down at the infrastructure level. We're talking about pure speed, about how deep the liquidity is, and about how you navigate the tricky waters of regulation.
So the biggest hurdles right now are these deep technical problems. The main bottleneck is the chain itself. Think of it like the digital highway all these trades have to drive on.
How fast can it go? That's why some protocols are literally building their own custom high-performance chains. Winning today means solving these hard problems, educating users, building something that can survive regulation, and most importantly, attracting that deep, sustainable liquidity.
This whole infrastructure race is what leads us to our final section, the ultimate vision. Because, and this is the key, this was never just about building a better crypto exchange. It's about laying the foundation for something way bigger.
The ambition here is just massive. Right now, yeah, it's about crypto futures. But the very near future is about trading everything else on these rails. Currencies, commodities, global stock indices, you name it. And the eventual goal? To become the single global settlement layer for every derivative everywhere.
And here's where it gets really interesting. AI is going to completely change the game. We're talking about trading AIs that execute incredibly complex strategies directly on-chain, handling everything from arbitrage to risk management automatically. The human trader's role? Well, it probably shifts from being the one clicking the buttons to being the one supervising the system.
The end game for all of this is a concept called an autonomous financial organism. I know, it sounds like something out of science fiction, but think of it like a driverless car for finance. There's no company, no CEO pulling the strings. It's just a piece of software that runs itself based on transparent rules. It matches trades, manages risk, all of it, automatically. It's not a corporation. It's more like a public utility, an operating system for money.
This quote just perfectly captures that massive shift in thinking. We're moving away from the idea of companies running things and toward these self-sustaining, decentralized engines that just work. And that, right there, is the biggest takeaway. What we're watching get built right now isn't just a slightly better version of what we already have. It is the literal blueprint for the next generation of finance, transparent, automated, and truly global.
So I'll leave you with this question to think about. As you watch this space evolve, are you just seeing a new product get popular, or are you watching the actual foundation of a new financial world get laid, block by block?